very important aspects, which is 2030 and beyond. I think this is a fantastic subject. We must look beyond. We have seen the present, we have seen the past. I think we must get some ideas. So today we are going to look at what should be the shape of IBC in 2030. What are the success parameters for IBC? Number one, timeliness. Number two, fairness. Is it fair to everyone? I think that's a topic which is now very reigning. And I think everyone, including the regulator, including the ministry, everyone should look at that now. And I'm going to talk about 2-3 aspects which are very important. And lastly, of course, is value maximization. We're all working towards value maximization. This is typically the essence. We will judge the success of IBC on these 3 parameters. I'm not saying this. BLRC says this. The Bankruptcy Law Reports Committee report says this, that the success of IBC will be tested on these 3 parameters. This is a very important aspect, friends, challenges for the operational creditors. Today, my dear friends, operational creditors at a lower string. They don't get any money. 32B is a protection which is zero, nothing. They don't get anything. Their haircuts are much larger because the major chunk is actually kept by the financial creditors. Well, the argument from the other side is, oh, I am a secured creditor. Why should I suffer? Otherwise, I'll take the company to liquidation. I will stand outside. I will take my money. Well, that logic may be fine, friends, but there has to be an equitable treatment. I'm not saying equal. I'm saying equitable treatment or a fair treatment. And time has come, my dear friends. If you read Swiss Ribbons, the Swiss Ribbon judgment, Justice Nariman, what he mentioned in his judgment, he said, today, because the challenge was that operational creditors are not treated equally with the financial creditors, they are outside the COC, and so forth. A lot of issues came up. He gave reasoning, 2 paragraphs, very important reasonings. But ultimately, and he upheld that no, these provisions are not discriminatory, but in one sentence, which everyone is ignoring and not reading, he says, time is not ripe today to bring operational creditors into COC, but in future, yes, they can be brought in. And I believe, my dear friends, the time has come now. What we are doing, they have to be there on COC, that's all. And imagine, in a physical meeting, if 5 people are sitting, 1 is objecting, other 4 will naturally take care of that person. But if you are missing altogether, a dissent is missing, they will never bother about you. So I think simply a presence in the COC will make a huge difference as far as the operational creditors are concerned. I think this is the future. I would see by 2030 this should happen, my dear friends. Say that. So forensic audits are also very, very time intensive, my dear friends, isn't it? I think we need to develop a separate model for that look, this is a time-bound effort and this needs to be resolved in a time-bound manner. So AI-crafted repayment plans can be done considering income, lifestyle, and dependent. They are not typical complicated plans, my dear friend. Repayment plans are simpler based on what I can spare my money. That's all what you have to look at. If the debtor is earning 2 lakh rupees, he needs 1 lakh for his subsistence and for his family, 1 lakh he can spare. Tell the AI, these are the creditors, these are the categories of the creditors, this is the money available, tell me in how many years that money can be paid. Fantastic plan will come. And no creditor will be able to object to that. He says, okay, all right, you give me. I have only 1 lakh to be spare. You want to take it, sign it. If you don't want it, okay, I'll be declared bankrupt, you will not get anything else. So I think these are the benefits of AI which needs to be developed on a very, very large scale, my dear friends. That is very important. Maximize the value of the assets of the company. Well, dynamic asset valuation, I have mentioned big words like blockchain, big backed valuation models. This is very, very important, friends. I don't know how many of you are aware about blockchain, but please read about blockchains. These are extremely important and I think we must use that. And we always link blockchains with cryptocurrency. No, it's not that. Of course, cryptocurrency also maintains a blockchain, but blockchain can be used in IBC framework very, very easily, my dear friends. Because it creates a block and then blocks are, you see, linked with a chain. That is why it is known as every transaction. It's a simple thing I can give you. If you want to transfer 1,000 rupees to say somebody else, right? say to me, I'll be beneficiary, okay? So there will be, this transaction will be accounted for in a ledger. The system will check whether you have money or not, and the money will be automatically transferred. That will be created as a block, nobody can change it. And everyone in the chain will get that, so it is known as a blockchain. It's a very interesting, I think, concept. Friends, this is one of the important aspects, 2030 plus living and breathing framework. It must be adaptive, inclusive, as I said, include even the operational creditors. It must be future ready. We need to set the gold standards in the insolvency laws. Only few slides, my dear friends, how we can make it. Number one, this is important now. Expand tribunal capacity. This is important. I think in one single sentence, I think everything is covered. Increase the number of benches, maybe single member benches. That's an idea. I'm not saying it must be done, but that's an idea. That's not a problem. Introduced tiered jurisdiction, categorize low value and high value cases. I think they can be bifurcated. Fix strict timelines. Give the targets to the benches that you need to be strict on that. And of course, create appellate benches, if not in all states, at least in many other states. You have a high court in every state. 26 high courts are there in India. Let the appeal go to high courts. Why do you need appellate tribunals? Request every Chief Justice of every high court that please create an insolvency appellate court there. Dedicated court, they can do that. And they can handle. And they can handle better. I'm not making any comments on NCLAT members. I think they are wonderful. They are doing a fantastic job. We respect them. But at the end of the day, access is very important to the doorstep. A person who is a corporate debtor in Coimbatore has to go to Chennai. A corporate debtor in Kochi has to go to Chennai to file an appeal. Why can't he go to the Kerala High Court? I think this is something which needs to be looked at. 2030, I think, is a time we can really have a hard look at it. Hard look. That is what. Global mobility is also required. I can see in 2030 that an Indian IP can handle even in UK also. Of course, it requires reciprocity, because the government should actually work on that. So global certification, internationally required certifications from the IPs, very important, my dear friends. So knowledge of global practices is very important. I think Mr. Prasad says physical programs. I should say we should hold programs with outside insolvency professional agencies. Hold them together. That is extremely important. Bring their speakers. Our speakers will also go there and explain. That is very important, my dear friends. Intangibles can be more valuable sometimes than the tangibles. How many of us are doing that? I think many of you must have done it. You must have sold that. And when we think of intangibles, we always think of brand. We always think of trademark. We just restrict to that. What about the other things? Mining rights of the company. Right to collect toll. It's also an intangible. I think these are important areas which are going to be developed. And I think we should have a separate asset class also. Today we have fixed assets, plant and machinery, land and building, and financial assets. I think intangible should be a separate asset class altogether. This is important. And then, of course, the social enterprise insolvency. Why we are not bringing NGOs into insolvency? I think that's also important. So NGOs, partnership firms, we have linked partnership firms with individuals and we have left out. Partnership firms are huge. They are doing some huge businesses. I think partnership firms can be bifurcated from individuals and they can be brought in immediately. I think that can be done. Individuals can wait if you don't have the infrastructure, but as far as the partnership firms are concerned, I think something needs to be done on an immediate basis, my dear friend.